After a very shaky first half, Barcelona was able to score 3 goals in the second half and win this contest 4 goals to 1, therefore only being 2 points off the top. In this video we're going to look at how Hansi Flick changed the game just with an instant impact from Fermin Lopez. As always, do subscribe to the channel. Let's get right into the video. I want to start off by talking about Barcelona's pressing structure, as we are really getting a hold of the way that we press, as Barcelona was really good at putting pressure onto these players dropping into these areas, as the whole of the right hand side of Sevilla was covered and they really struggled. And when Barcelona overturned the ball, they would get into the attack immediately, and this is now going to make teams think about how are we going to get through this and maybe go long all the time, and where Barcelona would be able to overturn the ball. As we are so used to by now, we see Rafinha and Lamine providing the speed in the press up front, where Lewandowski is joining Gavi within the midfield. But the concern with this press has always been the spaces that Barcelona leaves, and you can see the proximities of these players pressing is much shorter now, meaning that the opposition would have to be extremely accurate if they want to break Barca down. But here you can see Barcelona immediately attacks, and we kind of see this in the game against Girona as well with Lamine's 2 goals. The main reason why Sevilla was able to hold up Barcelona so well was they had what looked like a 4-2-4 situation in defense, which really made Barcelona struggle for ball circulation, which means with any switch you would have a player in close proximity to either press Balde or Koundé or Lamine Yamal. Whereas this number 8 is also partnering with the fullback onto Lamine Yamal, meaning that Barcelona really struggled to put these intricate passes together. Therefore, we saw that Rafinha and Frenkie de Jong was constantly moving in order to get the ball and to be on the ball, and so did Pedri as well. But they hold on to their shape, they didn't move, they didn't change, they didn't chase a player, for example. They would go deep, they would stay in their positions, and Barcelona was really isolated from these players at the back controlling and these guys making the runs up here, which was great tactics from Garcia Pimienta. Over here we can perfectly see the 4-2-4 situation with the 2 strikers up front, also with the 2 wide players in close proximity to press both Koundé and Balde as well, where you see the likes of Rafinha and Frenkie de Jong had to come extremely deep, while these wide players would still maintain their position. This made circulating the ball extremely difficult for Barcelona in the second half, and these players would also slightly put on pressure wherever they would, however they would remain in their shape, which was clearly a tactic from the manager. Garcia Pimienta made a huge mistake, and this is where the downfall of Sevilla came, and this is where he allowed his players to defend in a more flat 4-4-2. This now allowed Barcelona to have a 4-against-2 numerical advantage in the midfield, because he wanted to put pressure on the center backs, and this was not a good move. Frenkie and Pedri now had a lot more space in order to move on, and now you're gonna see with the replacement of Gavi as well how that played a big role in those 2 goals from Fermin and Rafinha as well. So this is where the mistake actually came from, and it was all from Garcia Pimienta, because he made his team defend in a flat 4-4-2. The spaces between the lines were now obvious, and not only obvious, they were massive spaces that Sevilla was leaving for FC Barcelona to move in, especially the likes of Frenkie and Pedri could now easily just find these spaces. And this is where the downfall, like I said, started for Sevilla, because now the players on the ball had a lot more time. If you look at the chip in from Pedri, you could see he had a lot of time. Frenkie de Jong had a lot of time. He could drop in between these spaces, and this really disorganized Sevilla. Now the goal of Fermin and the goal of Rafinha was purposefully, orchestrated, right? Because normally with Gavi playing here, you only have Rafinha and Lewandowski mainly making these runs where they could go detected. And lo and behold, it was because Pedri was in space as a result of that flat 4-4-2, but now you had an extra runner into the midfield that can draw the attention as well the other way around. So that is how this basically worked, and Hansi Flick knew that Fermin is somebody that likes to run in behind, whereas Gavi is going to more than likely come towards the ball. So this is completely orchestrated. Hansi Flick knew that the lines were now open and he needed an extra runner. He's going to attack the spaces very, very well. And no wonder he scored almost instantaneously with his first touch. Now everybody's going to look at the goal. Yes, Fermin makes a late run because Lewandowski is drawing the attention of the centre backs, but look at Rafinha making a run, drawing players away, and also Pedri being in space, right? And that is really a manager at work, a master at work, because Flick saw this and that's why he made the change. He didn't hesitate because he saw what's going on. Rafinha is the exact same DNA in the lab for Hansi Flick, where Fermin is actually drawing away these players, and Kubarsi, amazingly enough, finds Rafinha, who actually finishes, right? And this is all because these lines became extremely flat, and Hansi Flick knew that we're gonna need players that's gonna move in behind, that's gonna open up this defense and this midfield lines and spaces. And I also think that if Barcelona could have stayed 11 men, we would have scored more goals, because we scored a fourth even with 10 men down, because these lines were so flat. So it was a big L from Garcia Pimienta, because if he continued the 4-2-4 situation, who knows, Barcelona might have dropped points in this. But this was the problem. They defended, and they started defending way too flat for Barcelona. So the movement, the players almost always got the ball in space. This was really refreshing for me to see how Koundé and Fermin was making opposite runs. And if Pedri just gave Koundé the ball, Koundé would have scored another goal in this instance right here, and he could pass it straight through. But look at how Rafinha is receiving the ball while Fermin is drawing the player. So a lot of movement, and it was just way too easy for Barca. So when Fermin actually got the red card, Dani Olmo replaced Robert Lewandowski, and Eric Garcia replaced Frenkie de Jong. And there was something that was happening that was really interesting to me, because Olmo was a midfielder, right? But it was actually Rafinha that defended in the middle, and then Olmo would come out here, and the Barca would look like a 4-4-1 situation, right? I think the reason why Flick did this was for transitional purposes, because Rafinha himself can also come in and make a midfield 3. But at the same time, if Barcelona recover, for example, maybe from an attack, Barcelona would instantly be through here with Rafinha and even Lamine Yamal. So that was great from Barcelona, great from Hansi Flick in terms of the tactics and the way that he managed the game. And I also think that this move actually forced Sevilla not to be able to commit so many players forward, because that would be a huge mistake. With Rafinha's speed, he could instantly be through the middle. But what a performance from Pedri. I still don't understand how people can compare him still to Jude Bellingham. He just meets so much more criteria than what Jude Bellingham does, and also Fermin. But as always, guys, do subscribe to the channel. We upload weekly Barcelona content. Thank you for watching.